Hi, I'm Trish Weeks. I specialise in literacy in subject areas in secondary schools. Today I'm going to talk to you about the process of scaffolding for writing. It's called the Teaching and Learning Cycle for Literacy, and it is a research-backed way of supporting students to develop fantastic writing skills and abilities in your subject. I'm going to give you 3 subject area examples today from science, health and physical education, and music. Music is my subject. I'm a music teacher originally. So let's have a think about the teaching and learning cycle and how it would apply in a Year 8 classroom in those 3 subjects. The teaching and learning cycle of scaffolding has 3 main stages. The first one is modelling. Modelling is when we give students an answer, a sample answer or example of exactly what they have to write. And we help them to deconstruct it, unpack it, look at how it works, what are the parts, the bits, how are we making meaning through this text. The second main stage of the scaffolding cycle, the teaching and learning cycle for writing, is supported writing, where we ask the students to work in groups to write a very similar text to the one we've given them in the modelling stage. And finally, there's the independent writing stage, and we all know what that is, when the students write independently. Again, a similar topic to what we have been covering. So in that process then, we're thinking of 3 texts, 3 different examples of topics. Now that can be tricky to get your head around, so I'm going to give you some examples from those 3 subjects so you know what I mean. So imagine that in science we're studying properties of metals. The 3 different ideas for the texts could be 3 different properties of metals. For example, the model text could be electrical conductivity. The supported writing text that students do together could be luster. And the independent writing text could be malleability. So they're all 3 similar topics under the same main overall field or subject matter. In health and physical education, let's imagine we're studying effective communication skills and respectful relationships. We could have this cycle work for 3 different communication skills. For example, the model text could be eye contact. The task that we do in supported writing in groups could be active listening. And the text that students write on their own could be about open body language. So there are 3 relationship skills, 3 communication skills to build effective and respectful relationships. So in music, let's say we're doing 12-bar blues with our Year 8s. You pick 3 different examples of the 12-bar blues, and the students can write about the elements or concepts of music in each of those excerpts. So excerpt 1, just a short excerpt. Excerpt 1 would be in the modelling phase. Excerpt 2 would be the supported writing phase. And excerpt 3 would be the independent writing phase. Okay, so now we've got our ideas of 3 similar but slightly different topics under the same overall subject matter area for our texts. Now as the teachers, you have to create those texts that are going to work. You have to write the model text, the example that you're going to give to students. So you don't just give them an empty table. You don't just talk about what to write. You don't write it yourself on the board. Instead, you give the students a paper copy, their own paper copy of the model text, and make sure they've got a pen and highlighters because they're going to be writing all over this model text. So the writing all over it is the deconstruction part. You're going to be helping the students by giving them an exact example of what they're going to have to write later on. These examples are like at the paragraph level. So the text might be this long, a few sentences. So let's say we're giving students a model text and we're trying to write it with our colleagues, which were other teachers who teach Year 8. And I must say it is tricky. So give yourself some time. It's really a worthwhile process for your own professional learning to write some model text that will work with your class, with the syllabus topics, and really get inside what you expect students to do at that level of learning. So back to our science example. We've got properties of metals, and we're going to write a model text paragraph, a description of the property of metal, which is going to be electrical conductivity. So for that, you have to write the text with your colleagues and then work out what job each sentence is doing. For example, you might give a definition of the property. You might give examples of metals that have that property. And you might, for example, explain how a scientist would test for that property if they had a substance and didn't know if it was a metal or not. Or there may be other sentences you'd like to write about properties of metals. Whatever it is, work out what that job is of that sentence, a job that is beyond Peel. Now, I have no problem with Peel, point, explain, example, then link. But they're very generic and general. For a really effective modelling experience in the classroom with students, work out the specific job of that sentence in that model text paragraph. Let's look at our example from health and physical education. We're describing skills in effective relationships or communication skills in effective relationships. So, for example, we've got a model text that might be about eye contact. You might want to, 1, identify the skill. You might want to define what that skill is. What is effective eye contact? What does it mean? The third thing you might like to do is say or write why that skill, why eye contact helps build positive communication. And maybe you might want to say write a fourth sentence about what happens if that skill is not present in a relationship, in an effective communication situation. If there's no eye contact, what happens? So you could pick other sentences too. You don't have to pick those. But work out again what job each sentence is doing in your model text. For music, we're doing 12-bar blues. So with our first example of a 12-bar blues listening task about the elements of music, each sentence could be about a different element. So the first sentence, we might want to describe the performing media in that 12-bar blues. The second sentence might be to describe something about the duration or rhythm. For example, the tempo. Is it slow or fast? The third thing we might like to do is to describe something about the texture. So how many instruments are playing at any point in that excerpt. So there's 3 different jobs the sentences are doing there. So there is an unlimited amount of number of jobs the sentences could do, but you as the teacher can decide when you write your model text, what do you want the students to do? The jobs those sentences do are called phases. So work out what the paragraph phases are, and then when you give the students their own paper copy of that model text, that's one of the things they can do. They can write the names of the phases next to the paragraph. What else can the students do when you give them their model text? You can get them to circle any syllabus points or syllabus terms. In music, words like rhythm, words like texture. In science, words like property, words like luster. In health and physical education, words like eye contact, communication. Another thing that you could ask students to do is to put a square around any capital letters in the model text. Teachers often say to me, why don't students ever start their sentences with capital letters? Their punctuation is terrible. I know. So why don't you get them to put boxes around the capital letters that start each sentence to help them to notice the capital letters and how to punctuate a sentence? Okay, let's summarise how this has gone. The first thing we do is, with your colleagues, you need to write a model text that you can use in the modelling stage. It could be a paragraph, and work out what the phases or jobs are of each sentence in that paragraph. Then you give that model text in the classroom to students and they unpack it, they analyse it, they highlight, they write down the names of those phases like definition, example, advantage of the skill for relationships, how a scientist tests for the property. Anything that's going on in that paragraph, they write it specifically and highlight and draw all over it. The next phase of the teaching and learning cycle is where students are put into groups and then they write a similar text. So not the same topic exactly as the model text, but a similar topic. And guess what? They use the same paragraph phases. They have the same or similar syllabus terms. They put boxes around the capital letters. Whatever you've asked students to do in analysing the model text. And then finally, independently, give the students a task to do on their own where they can apply everything they've learned. So don't underestimate the time it might take to write a fantastic model text. But when you do, you can use it again and again every year and every time you teach that topic, and that's that unit of work. So I hope this is helpful in helping you to teach effective writing in your subject area. Your practical follow-up from this video is write a model text with your colleagues. It'd be great to do it in faculty time and then give it a try in the classroom. Okay, thanks and bye for now.